Hi, it's Dr. D and welcome. In the past several months, I have been inundated with people reaching out around commitment phobia. Either they're experiencing it themselves or they're in a relationship where that partner is unable to take the next step. And so they really feel stuck, both on an individual level and as a couple. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about commitment phobia. I'm going to be talking about sharing with you why someone might have commitment phobia. Also some of the behaviors in which they might be exhibiting that demonstrates to you or even to them that they have commitment issues. And then lastly, how to overcome that so you can get on the other side of that. So let's begin. I want to first preface this by saying that even when someone has a commitment issue, they're still interested in a long-term relationship and they still want love from the other person. They want to be able to give and receive. However, because of how they're thinking about commitment, they have a hard time getting that. And so they're going to be showing up in certain ways and doing certain things that are going to be demonstrating they really struggle with this commitment issue, right, in their life. So why does someone have a commitment issue? There are several reasons why someone might have a hard time committing in a relationship. For example, they might have unmet attachment needs in their first family, which is their family of origin, which is their parents or siblings, etc. What we all refer to as family of origin. And because of that, they might have become avoidant or maybe anxious around relationships. So if they have unmet attachment needs, that might be a reason. Another reason why they might have commitment issues is because they come from a chaotic or a complicated family. Or for example, maybe their parents are divorced, or maybe they see a lot of divorce, or maybe they have a chaotic upbringing for other reasons. And this really affects how they view relationships. Another reason why they might have a hard time committing is because they don't really have a healthy template from where they can pull from that would give them a good idea of what a relationship looks like that's very healthy and one that both people are committed. Because maybe, again, they have unmet attachment needs, and because they were raised with a chaotic upbringing or there was some chaos in their life, they don't really have a template or a couple that they can look to demonstrate that there is such thing as a healthy relationship and you can commit. And they might also be around people that either maybe they work or they associate with who are in unhealthy relationships or marriage. And because of that, their view of that is very skewed. And so what they're doing is they're looking at their parents or maybe some other family members or friends who are really unhappy. And they're like, well, why would I commit? I mean, there really isn't anything positive to come of that. And a couple other last reasons why people would have commitment issues is maybe they've been in a relationship where the person is, just up and left, and it's really left a bad taste in their mouth, and it's left them feeling like maybe I shouldn't commit anymore. Of course, we don't know if the reason why that person left was because the person was not committal, but when someone is not committal, it's hard for them to see possibly their role in why that person left. And lastly, they have cognitive distortions. And cognitive distortions are exaggerated and irrational perceptions and ways of viewing things which affect how we behave. I'm going to talk more about that further in the video. And so because of these cognitive distortions, their way of thinking about a relationship is quite distorted. So those are some of the reasons why a person would have difficulty committing in a relationship. So what are some of the behaviors that they would exhibit for a person who's non-committal? One of the things that they do is to me, this is the thing that really drives a lot of their behavior. It's the fear and anxiety. This fear and anxiety they have around commitment, around this relationship. It's like a motor in a car, and it's going to affect each person differently, but they're going to be driven by this fear of committing, or driven by they have such fears in their head and such distorted beliefs about relationships that it just drives up their fear and anxiety. And eventually they end up leaving the relationship, or eventually they find a reason to leave because they're not really addressing the fear and anxiety, which is the thing that's motivating them to behave a certain way. Another behavior is, I would term this as more like a word that they use, and I hear this often, is fear of loss of freedom. And it's really important to ask that person like what that means to them, is to like operationally define what it means to them when they say I'm gonna lose this freedom. And it's often based in like these black or white. I'm either going to be in this relationship, I'm going to have no freedom whatsoever, or I'm not going to be in a relationship and have all the freedom that I want. And so this is a very distorted way of looking at that. And so it's really important to unpack and to break apart how they define this fear of losing their freedom in this relationship. Other behaviors to look at, history of dating. Are they like a serial dater? Are they in relationships every 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? Are they that type of person that has an end date? So they're here for these 2 years and then go into another relationship for another 2 years, or another relationship for like another year, or something like that. They also have a history of leaving relationships. And so they also not only leave in relationships, but they have a history of dating people who are unavailable. And so unavailable might mean maybe that person works too much, so they really can't commit and they're not really around. Maybe that person is married, but in some way they're going after people, oftentimes subconsciously, that are unavailable to them. So those are a couple things also to look for. What are the types of behaviors? Well, they create conflict, which gives them a reason to leave. They have difficulty making long-term decisions, whether that be going on a trip in 3 or 4 months, or down the road meeting family or friends, or making a plan for a holiday. So they have really difficulty making long-term decisions, and even sometimes they have a hard time making short-term decisions, or they make short-term decisions and they back out of them, or they kind of kick the can down the road. They wait for like a really long period of time before they say yes, because they're so non-committal. They don't even want to commit to something that might be 1 or 2 weeks away, because they may not want to participate in that. They also will limit intimacy, so they'll have a tendency to do what is more, what I would kind of define as like a push and pull, right? So they're pushing the other person away, but then they're also pulling them close and they're intimate. And then they continuously push and pull that person, leaving that person really confused. Like, is this person in it? Is there not? And the reason why you're confused, if you're on the receiving end of that, is because your partner is confused. And one of the other behaviors that they do is they look for perfection, right? I mean, we all know those people who are like, well, if you're a little taller, a little this, a little that, were a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, then they would just be perfect. And they're looking for this perfect person, right, who doesn't really exist. But the reason why they're looking for that perfect person is because they're non-committal. And so it really gives them an out. So those are some of the behaviors that people that have commitment issues exhibit. So I'm not sure if any of those resonate with you or with your partner, but those are some of the things. So you have the reasons why they might be non-committal, right? The family stuff and the chaos, etc. You have the behaviors that they're exhibiting, right? The fear and the anxiety and how that's driving all of these things in their mind. So then what do you do? Like, how does a person overcome a commitment issue? If you're the partner, what do you do in these circumstances? Like, how do you help your partner overcome that commitment? One of the things that really is an important very first step is to become aware. Because once we become aware of one of our challenges, we really can't become unaware of it anymore, right? We really can't once we start thinking about it and we're like become more aware, how do you forget that? And so I think the awareness is a really big piece in all of that. And along with that, with the awareness piece comes a commitment to make some small changes, and then of course the accountability to yourself. So the awareness starts with, okay, I'm hearing this, I'm reading this, and this really resonates with me. There is an awareness here. So what do I need to do with this awareness? Some of the other things you can do to overcome this is to challenge those distorted beliefs, those distorted cognitions. So I would go back to that word freedom. And I think that, like I said a few moments ago, that taking that distorted belief and using that word, for example, freedom, like I'm going to lose my freedom, to really sit down and break it apart and like, where did you get that distortion from? Like, why do you feel that you would lose your freedom? And like, how would you even define freedom? And obviously you can't be a single person in a relationship. You just can't go off and do whatever you want to do. There is more accountability and more common courtesy, obviously, in a relationship. But I often find that people that use that word, like I said, they have such black and white views. I mean, they're going to be like this, they're going to be like this, when there's so much more gray. And lots of times these distorted cognitions, these exaggerated and irrational thoughts are, kind of based in this black and white view rather than looking at the shades of gray of life, because they're everywhere. So challenge those distorted beliefs for sure. The other thing is you can commit to making small changes, which goes back to the awareness piece. And how can you make a commitment to a small change, even like a teeny tiny change? And even your teeny tiny change might be just becoming aware. It could be maybe taking more of an active approach to reading something. But it could just be, okay, here's one small change I can start to make. Maybe that small change would be learn how to make smaller commitments. I'm going to follow through and I'm going to purchase that, whatever it is. I'm going to follow through and I'm going to say yes to that person about something, and I'm not going to give myself the opportunity to back out of that. So a commitment to making a small change is really key. Just start small, but in truth, just start. And the other thing you can also do is you can communicate with your partner. If you happen to be in a relationship and some of these things are really resonating with you, then how do you sit down and share your story? And we all have one. How do you sit down and talk to your partner and say, this is where I came from and this is where I'm at, and I really want to change, and I really want to figure out why I'm so non-committal in these things in life. And communicating with your partner is key. Or maybe you have a family member, maybe you have a friend, maybe you have someone you can confide in to share, and to communicate what you're going through. The other thing you can also do beyond communicating with your partner is that you can also set healthy boundaries. And setting healthy boundaries is saying yes to things and no to things, which kind of goes back to and piggybacks on making small changes. So maybe you say yes to these things and no to these things, and you follow through. Instead of saying yes to everything, say no to some things. And that's also showing a commitment that you want to change, that you want to honor your time, you want to figure out what's going on. And so by setting healthy boundaries, you can actually do that. And lastly, look, I'm a therapist, and when I'm working with couples, I tell them 45, 50 minutes once a week is just provides you the platform. But in between sessions, you got to do the work. And in life, you got to do the work, which means that if what I'm talking about in this video resonates with you, if you read something that resonates, then you read the blogs, you read the articles, you ask and answer yourself those questions, you do the work, you seek out people like a professional that can maybe help you, you talk to family, you do something that is demonstrating to yourself and to your partner that you really want to make this change, and you do not want to be stuck in this world of being phobic about commitment, and whatever that's going to take, you're willing to do. And I think that, like I said, that also starts with awareness of this is a challenge in your life, because we all have them. So I hope that helps. I mean, I will say that I've been fortunate that I've been working with a lot of couples with this issue, and 3 of them got married this past year, which is really, really great. Not just rewarding for me, but really rewarding for them, because they've done so much of the work and they should be really proud of themselves. And as always, I hope that you've taken something from this and that you got something from it, or you want to pass it on to somebody that might benefit. I'm available. You can reach me. You can DM me on Instagram. You can send me an email at hello@kristendavin.com. You can shoot me a text, whatever. You can make a comment here below the YouTube video. Whatever you need to do to connect and to ask, I'm here to help. And like I said, I hope this video has been helpful. And thank you.